Thank you for tuning in to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports. I am your co-host, Sarah. Joining me, as always, is Tate. We have a great show planned for you today. We will be talking about, of course, last night's game between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks, making the Boston Celtics the new NBA champions. We'll talk about the Big 12 considering a private equity investment up to $1 billion. Additionally, the Big 12 is discussing a sale of naming rights to Allstate. Stick around for segments 4 and 5 when we have some interesting stories, one involving a crossing guard who was arrested for giving students vapes. And then finally, we talk about a man who went viral after he appeared for his court hearing for a suspended license. He appeared for that court hearing while driving. So stick around for that. Before we start, I would like, as always, for you to like and follow the show. That really does help. Also, we get a number of questions and comments that come in during the show. If you would go to gsmcpodcast.net, you can leave a tip or a donation that ensures that your question goes to the top of the list, making sure that we see it. We love to engage in those questions. So please go to gsmcpodcast.net. You can support the show by leaving a tip or a donation. Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is. Tate.
Midday. This time it's not good morning. It's midday.
Here.
How are you doing, Miss Sarah?
I'm doing okay. There was a weird noise outside earlier, but I think it's currently done, and I hope that it wasn't loud enough to be picked up on.
Outside the studio, it was like an elk was giving birth to a Buick. I don't quite know.
That would be painful.
I don't quite know what the heck was going on out there, but it sounded painful.
I think it was construction, and there was like some metal creaking or something. But
like I said, an elk giving birth to a Buick. That's what I said.
Yours is funnier. All right. Instead of talking about elks and Buicks, whether or not one can give birth to the other, I think we should probably move into segment 1. How do you feel about that?
Done.
And our slideshows are there, but they are taking a very long time today to show up. So let's see if...
Let's go ahead and we'll see if it'll catch up there.
There we go. Okay. So the Boston Celtics have clinched their 18th NBA championship, a record-setting achievement that elevates them above their historic rivals, the Los Angeles Lakers. Their victory came after a decisive Game 5 win over the Dallas Mavericks, securing the series 4-1. From the start, the Celtics set the pace, finishing the first quarter with a 9-0 run and maintaining control throughout, culminating in a 106-88 victory. Key players like Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown were instrumental in this win. Tatum dominated the court with 31 points, 11 assists, and 8 rebounds, while Brown contributed 21 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, earning him the Finals MVP. Derrick White, Jrue Holiday, and Kristaps Porziņģis also played pivotal roles, showcasing the team's depth and versatility. The Celtics' defensive prowess and three-point shooting were on full display, with their classic green uniforms symbolizing a return to their storied legacy. Their performance was a testament to their regular season dominance, where they achieved an NBA best 64 wins and top advanced metrics. Boston's strategy involved aggressive defense, efficient ball handling, and consistent scoring from beyond the arc, particularly in the first half, where they shot 47.6% from the three-point range. Dallas, led by Luka Doncic and former Celtic Kyrie Irving, struggled to keep pace. Doncic posted 28 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists, but was hindered by turnovers and poor shooting from beyond the arc. Irving, heavily jeered by the Boston crowd, managed 15 points, but was ineffective overall. The championship solidifies the legacies of Tatum and Brown, placing them alongside Celtics legends like Larry Bird and Paul Pierce. It also validates the strategic moves by President of Basketball Operations Brad Stevens and the leadership of head coach Joe Mazzulla, who in his second season has already won a championship. The Celtics' journey through the playoffs was marked by resilience and dominance, with a 16-3 record and no series extending beyond 5 games. Their path included avenging last year's Eastern Conference Finals loss to Miami, defeating Cleveland, sweeping Indiana, and finally overpowering Dallas. For Boston, this championship is not just a culmination, but a promising start, with their young core poised for future success. Tatum and Brown, both in their mid-20s, have their sights set on further cementing their names in Celtics lore. This victory not only breaks their championship drought since 2008, but also reasserts the Celtics as the preeminent franchise in NBA history. Take it away, Tate.
Okay. The first thing when I think about this, when I step back and I look at this whole thing, you talk about Brad Stevens as the general manager. He's the key to this whole championship here. And it's most times when you look at a championship or an NBA championship, you look at the players. And the players had everything to do with this. But Brad Stevens was under a lot of pressure for a number of years about breaking up Tatum and Brown, breaking them up, and not giving Brown the big contract. And is Tatum really worth it? Do you need to break these guys up and bring in some new blood? And he stuck with them. He doubled down. He gave Brown his contract, Tatum his contract, and he kept adding pieces. So this is one of those where a solid, confident front office stayed the course and put together literally the best team all year. And statistically speaking, one of the best teams in modern history. When you watch this series, it wasn't even close. It wasn't close at all. The best player on the court was Luka. Luka was the best player on the court. But the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh best player were all on Boston. Boston was better defensively, better offensively, deeper, with more players coming off the bench, getting quality minutes, quality scoring, quality defense. And Dallas was pretty much a one-headed monster where it was just Luka. And I say that because Kyrie kind of disappeared whenever they were in Boston. The crowd in Boston had an effect on Kyrie, and it showed. Even last night, it showed. Kyrie was able to put together one nice game in these playoffs where, in order for Dallas to have any shot, they needed Kyrie to have the series of his lifetime, and he had anything less than that. He did not have the series of his life. Matter of fact, he had maybe one of the worst series he's ever put together. Now, when you start looking at Boston, and you say statistically, they're one of the best teams in modern history, meaning of the new turn of the century. But when you look at this team, a lot of people didn't look at them as that, generational team. But when you step back and you look at this, you look at the Celtics and you say, who's going to knock them off next year? And I think they're already, for next year, staying the course, have a solid chance of repeating as Eastern Conference champions. Every team that's contending against them, whether it's Milwaukee, whether it's Philadelphia, whether it's Cleveland, Indiana, they have to do some wholesale changes to even compete with the Celtics. The Celtics are far and away the best team in the East. Now, on the West side, you look at it and you say, it was the best matchup. Dallas, it was a great matchup. Minnesota would have played the Celtics, and a lot tougher. Denver would have given the Celtics a run for their money. But having Dallas come through the West was tailor-made for the Celtics. The Celtics was just too much for them. And so, when I watch this series and you step back and you look at what has happened, Tatum and Brown was just amazing. Jrue Holiday gave him that veteran presence, that strong defensive presence as well. I mean, they put together a quality team who really dominated. And this is the definition, Sarah, of a gentleman's sweep. That one game they put together, and the Celtics did put up a stinker. But part of that I felt like was they knew they had the game in hand, the series in hand. They kind of took their foot off the pedal because I think they really wanted to win this in Boston, and which they did. Dallas had that one series, but it was a disappointment. I mean, really, once the finals came, Dallas was a big disappointment. And you look at Dallas and you say, can they get back? Like we were just talking about, I could easily see the Celtics back next year. Luka has been phenomenal. Kyrie was okay, but Dallas is missing too many pieces. They're going to need to revamp this team in order not to make it back to the finals, but to even contend. Oklahoma City Thunder is going to be better. Minnesota is going to be better. Denver is Denver. If the Lakers get anyone, get that third piece, they're going to be better. The New Orleans Pelicans are going to be better. I see they had their best chance to claim a championship this year, and they laid an egg. Defensively, they laid an egg. Their shooting, way down. Their defense disappeared on them. This was not a good series for Dallas when this was their best chance to win a championship. But anyway, the main thing was the Celtics have won. The big one is, yes, they broke the series tie between the Lakers, and they got their 18th championship or 18th champion. Yeah, and the Lakers have 17. But the question is Boston the sports city of this century? This is their 13th city championship, whether it's the Patriots, the Celtics, the Bruins. They're claiming consistently, the Red Sox, 13 championships this turn of the century is incredibly impressive as well.
Yeah, wow.
Is Boston truly title town? Because that's what they're doing now. So just something to think about there.
Well, I know it's been since 2008 since they won their last championship, but for me, when I think of I didn't grow up in a sports family, but even as a kid, the Boston Celtics, Larry Bird, like even I knew who they were, and if I knew who they were, they were clearly on the TV, in the newspaper, etc. So that's the Celtics that I think of, and then they didn't disappear, but they had some dry spells, let's say.
This is a weird thing for me because I watched the Celtics. And I wanted the Celtics to win. Mm-hmm. That is so foreign to me.
Counterintuitive, right?
In NBA basketball, I'm a Lakers fan. And I have two things I want to happen when it comes to basketball. Number one, I want the Lakers to win. Number two, if the Lakers doesn't win, my moniker is anybody but Boston or the Clippers. That's always been my moniker. Anybody but Boston and the Clippers. I felt that way since I was a little kid. But this team was different. I really wanted to see Tatum and Brown win a championship. This had a different feel than other Boston teams for me. And so even as a lifelong Boston hater, I was pulling for them and wanted them to win and thought they deserved to win. They were the best team all year. At the beginning of the year, if you'd have said Boston versus Denver, that's what most people thought would have happened. Denver fell off. Boston never fell off. They were consistent throughout the season, so much so that I definitely had a lot of respect for them and thought not only did I think they deserved to win the championship, I wanted them to win the championship because they were they didn't let you down. So I think that's really awesome. Congratulations to the Boston fans. I know we got a number of Boston fans on the production team and show hosts and things. So I know I'm going to hear a lot about these Boston Celtics this week.
Yep. Well, it might not have been the most exciting of playoff series, but it turned you into less of a Boston hater. I'm not going to go further. Less of a Boston hater.
This is just one of those. We're going to pretend like I didn't say any of that, okay?
I won't hold it against you. All right, let's go ahead and take our first break of this episode. When we come back, we'll be talking about the Big 12 Conference exploring a private equity deal and the implications and ramifications of that. You are tuned into the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports, and we will be right back.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports. In segment 1, we were talking about last night's game between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. We are not going to say that Tate is a fan of Boston, but like we said, less of a hater. As we go into segment 2, I do want to remind you that we do get questions and comments that come in during the show. If you go to gsmcpodcast.net, you can leave a tip or a donation, and that will bump your question to the top of our list, ensuring that we see it. Again, that link is gsmcpodcast.net. And now moving into our second topic of the day, the Big 12 Conference is exploring a groundbreaking private equity investment to secure its long-term financial stability and competitive edge. Luxembourg-based CVC Capital Partners has proposed an $800 million to $1 billion cash infusion in exchange for a 15% to 20% stake in the league. This unprecedented move, discussed at the recent Big 12 spring meetings, aims to enhance the league's value and align it more closely with the financial powerhouses of college sports, such as the Big 10 and SEC. Currently, Big 12 teams earn $31.7 million each from a media rights deal with Fox and ESPN that extends until 2031. With CVC's investment, the Big 12 could significantly boost its revenue, potentially approaching the Big 10's media rights deal, which promises around $75 million per school annually. The partnership would not only provide immediate financial benefits to the 16 conference members, but also grant them access to CVC's vast investment services and global network. Despite the promising outlook, the proposal has met with some skepticism among league presidents. The Big 12 must ensure a long-term commitment, possibly requiring a new grant of rights by 2031. A small working group of 3 Big 12 presidents is currently evaluating the proposal, with Commissioner Brett Yormark's existing relationship with CVC playing a pivotal role in the discussions. CVC, managing over $200 billion in investments, sees significant upside in the Big 12's media rights. The current deal, valued at $2.3 billion, could potentially double, making the league's total worth around $5 billion in its next negotiation cycle. This projection aligns with the trend of increasing media rights revenues across FBS conferences. The backdrop to this financial maneuvering is the evolving landscape of college sports, where additional revenue streams are becoming essential. This urgency is underscored by the recent House v. NCAA settlement, which mandates revenue sharing with players and increases scholarship funding, adding significant financial pressures on Power 4 conference schools. CVC's sports investment portfolio includes notable entities like the Women's Tennis Association, La Liga, and Premiership Rugby, showcasing its expertise and success in the sports sector. The potential Big 12 investment could mark a new chapter in college sports, with private equity becoming a more prominent player in the industry. Tate, I'm sure there's lots to say about this. But when I read that, all I could think of was whenever you watch Shark Tank and they say, I'm asking for this amount in exchange for 15 to 20% of this of my company. I know it's not the same thing. That's just where my brain went. But there are definitely implications for this.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Okay. When we decided to do this story, it was supposed to have been on Friday. Is that correct?
Correct.
Then we had some things that kind of came up that we couldn't do the show the last couple of days. I'm going to tell you that was the best thing possible when it comes to this story. Because if I'd have done this story on Friday, I would have been like, I'm absolutely against this. I think it's wrong. I'm not for it.
Okay.
And I think it's bad. It's bad for college football. But I thought about it over the weekend. I thought about it yesterday. And I started thinking about, like you said, La Liga, Premier League, the WTA, and all these other organizations that are using private equity to move their sport along. And I have done a complete 180 on this. I think it's a good thing. I know that there's a lot of people that are against it. And I've looked at some of the reasons why they're against it. And they're all theoretical. There's no solid evidence on why it would be a bad thing. Everything that they've come up with on how it's going to destroy the sport and it's going to do away with all all the other non-equity or earning sports. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. When you dive into it and you look at it, did it wholesale change La Liga or Premier League or the WTA? They did not. They actually helped them. And I'm going to tell you that as I looked at this, now remember, last week I would have said I was against this, but I did do some research. The opposite is if they don't do it, that's what's going to change the game. That's what's going to change the league. If they don't do this, they're so behind the SEC and the Big 12, the SEC and the Big 10, that they won't be able to compete. And what I mean by that is in the world of the transfer portal with unlimited transfers, name, image, and likeness, and the money that is coming in from the SEC and the Big 10, the ruling where now they have to pay $22 million to the players. The SEC is in danger of becoming a farm system for the SEC and the Big 10. If the Big 10 and ACC are making 3 times what the Big 12 is making, then they have the ability, we have this superstar quarterback out of TCU. Well, Alabama comes calling, you can make a lot more money over here. It's already happening. Players are transferring to Big 10 and SEC schools because they can make more money. So how do you compete? You have to be able to compete and do more. This private equity makes it so that they're making on par with the SEC and the Big Ten, and makes it so they can be competitive. They can turn a profit. As a matter of fact, when I started, my new approach to this is, not only should they be giving 15 to 18% to this company for $1 billion, if there's a second company they can give another 15% to, I would do it as well. Pull in $2 billion, you've given up 30% ownership of control of your team, but you still have controlling interest at 70%. Makes it so the decisions are still with the Big 12. So, and that would actually push them above the Big 10 and the SEC. But the main thing is making the Big 12, putting the Big 12 on an even playing field. That is the key. When you looked at just recently, the Big 10 and the SEC does not look at the Big 12 or the ACC on the same level. So when it came time to negotiate the college football payouts, the Big 10 and SEC got a giant chunk, and the scraps were left for the ACC, the Big 12, and everyone else. This puts them on equal playing field. We make just as much as you. We can make just as big as demands as you can. That's important for the stability of the conference, the stability of college football. I think it's ingenious. The Big 12 is looking at and considering doing things that are groundbreaking and that can really, really take the Big 12 from where they are now to an upper echelon all the way into the future. I think it's a good move. Does that make sense to you?
It does. 1 second. Sorry. It does. Do you see any potential downsides or things that they need to keep an eye out for? I mean, you said first you were against it and then you started thinking about it, but what are the pitfalls? What are the potential pitfalls?
Well, the pitfalls is when you bring in private equity, they're going to be looking at how to make money. But when I started looking at it, they don't come in and tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that. But what they have done is said, we have these resources that we can help you. By us giving you these resources, we can open the doors for you guys to make even more money. Using our connections help bring you up so that you are being more efficient. They're in the business of maximizing your profit line. So if they are able to move the Big 12's bottom line to all new heights, then the entire athletic department's bottom line moves to all new heights. I say private equity has the ability to actually save college sports, as I've been looking at it, because of the fact that as these organizations are making more and more money, as they're sharing a lot of their financial tools and resources, it really does open that door for more money without wholesale destroying a league. La Liga is still going strong. Years with private equity. Premier League still going.
I do want to jump in. You keep saying Premier League. It's actually Premiership Rugby.
Oh, Premiership. Okay. Sorry about that. There's a big difference
People
there.
don't start yelling at us.
I can't speak on Premiership Rugby. I apologize. I cannot speak on that one.
So I just wanted to make sure I jumped in with that.
The Women's Tennis Association is still going strong, and they haven't made wholesale changes. It's not like they came into the WTA and been like, listen, doubles, it needs to go. We're only doing the big majors. Nothing has changed except for there's been more tournaments that have come out. The prize money has gone up in winnings. They haven't gone backwards. That's the reason why I look at it as a positive thing. They've worked more as a partner than an anchor. And I feel like a lot of the people, when you start reading some of the things about why, no one ever gives a true reason except for it's going to make it so they're going to do away with women's sports or non-equity revenue sports. Show me an instance where they've invested in a sports organization where they demanded to overhaul that sport. It hasn't been done. But what they have done is opened up other avenues of revenue for them to help them become more profitable. So when you look at it that way, it's a good thing. A lot of these universities are barely making it or losing money. Finding a company that specializes in generating revenue and opening up resources for a conference who has been struggling to turn a profit is a good thing. And like I said, if I would have done this story on Friday, I would have went the total opposite direction. But after doing a little bit more research and things, because on Friday I just had my own feeling, this is the way college football has always been, and they're changing it. But no one's looking deeper into this. They just know how they feel. College football was great the way it was. Why are we changing it? Because they were playing college football was set up in the 1800s. The 1900s have gone by. We're in the 21st century with 21st century issues and problems, and we have to find 21st century solutions. And when I look at it and I start diving into it, I am pro private equity. And I think most of the people that are against it, what I have seen across the board, is more about their feelings of nostalgia and how it's going to change things, but not how it can improve things.
All right. Well, we're going to take our second break. When we come back, we're actually sticking with the Big 12. A little bit of the same topic, but talking about potential name change in terms of some of this, looking into private equity. You are tuned in to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports, and we will be right back.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube, absolutely free.
Welcome back to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports. In the first segment, we talked about the Boston Celtics win last night over the Dallas Mavericks. We were just talking about the Big 12 looking into a private equity investment with CVC. We're continuing that but switching that a little bit in terms of the overall topic as I get this set up. The Big 12 Conference is in preliminary discussions about a potential private equity investment with CVC Capital Partners, as we said in the last segment. This unprecedented move aims to enhance the financial stability and competitive edge of the conference as it expands to 16 members and seeks to bridge the revenue gap with other power conferences like the SEC, Big Ten, and ACC. Additionally, the Big 12 is exploring selling its naming rights to a title sponsor, with Allstate emerging as a front runner. This could lead to a rebranding of the conference as the Allstate 12 Conference, potentially securing a 9-figure deal. These discussions were highlighted at the recent Big 12 spring meetings in Dallas, where CVC Capital presented its proposal. The Big 12's current media rights deal with Fox and ESPN, extending until 2031, is worth approximately $2.3 billion, distributing nearly $32 million annually per school, starting in 2025-26. Despite this, the Big 12's payouts still lag behind the Big 10, SEC, and ACC. In 2024, the Big 12 distributed a record $470 million, including revenue from various championships and sponsorships, yet this amount represented a reduced per-school payout due to the inclusion of new members like BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston. The potential CVC investment aims to position the Big 12 more favorably ahead of its next media rights contract in 2031, with expectations of increased television revenue providing a long-term return on investment. The CVC stake would likely be distributed similarly to member schools' shares under a new media deal. Commissioner Brett Yormark has been pivotal in these aggressive and innovative approaches to maximize the conference's revenue. His reputation for bold deal-making is well regarded within the league, and his strategies reflect the necessity for additional revenue streams in light of financial pressures from the NCAA settlement. The move towards private equity investment and selling naming rights aligns with trends in college sports, where securing additional funding is becoming increasingly crucial. The Big 12's exploration mirrors previous, albeit unsuccessful, attempts by other conferences like the Pac-12. If successful, these initiatives could set a new precedent in college athletics, demonstrating the growing intersection between sports and private equity. So, as we said, Tate, a similar topic. We're still in that private equity investment deal, but now we're talking about selling the naming rights. What are your feelings? You mentioned feelings.
This is the same story.
What are your feelings on the All-State 12?
Okay. Again, this was supposed to have been on Friday. Some things kind of happened where we couldn't do a show on Friday. We couldn't do a show on Monday.
Here we are on Tuesday.
On Friday, if we'd have done this show, I thought it was disgusting. I'm like, no. Think about it. The All-State 12 sounds so
It's hard.
dumb.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
Ladies and gentlemen, my opinions have changed.
You have the floor.
I have changed I've thought about this. And what made me start thinking about this is NASCAR. And most of my life as a kid, NASCAR, it was the Winston Cup. From 1971 to I think like 2010, it was the Winston Cup. And I thought that's what it was. I had no clue it was a sponsor. It was the Winston Cup. And then I think in 2010, right around that time, Winston could no longer do the sponsorship because they are a cigarette manufacturer. And it became the Nextel Cup. And I'm like, oh, this is horrible. How can you change it to the Nextel Cup? Got used to the Nextel Cup, and the Nextel got bought out. It became the Sprint Cup. And matter of fact, I thought the Sprint Cup made sense because it was a racing. So Sprint phones, Sprint racing, everything about it, I thought it fit. Fast forward to the day, it's the Monster Cup, That's just the way it is. You start looking at that and you're saying, okay, you think the Virginia Slims tournament back in the day. This has been going on for years. No one has an issue with the All-State Fiesta Bowl. Is there a problem with the All-State Fiesta Bowl? Just when I was younger, and it used to be the Fiesta Bowl, then it became the All-State Fiesta Bowl. People were upset. No one liked it. I played flag football in the flag football championships, and it was brought to you by the USS&G Sugar Bowl, which was sponsored for the Sugar Bowl during that time. No one thinks about that, but it just becomes a part of our daily talking. No one blinks an eye when it's like, oh, the All-State Fiesta Bowl is going to have Michigan versus Oklahoma. It's just the way it is.
And we were talking on Friday about this, and I was like, that sounds weird. But then I started thinking, stadiums have been doing this forever. Think of the stadiums we grew up with
Stadium.
who had names like named after maybe a person, and then they started being the AT&T Stadium or the Smirnoff Ice Stadium or the, I remember when Dallas became the Smirnoff Center, and I thought that was weird, but then you just get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, you speak back to the FedEx Orange Bowl. It's in your mind. Now, granted, I can't get down with that Pop-Tart bowl.
To eat Pop-Tarts.
If you're at the Pop-Tart bowl, I think everyone should be able to get free access. Everyone, when you come in, you get a bag of Pop-Tarts. And don't just give me 2. I need at least 4 Pop-Tarts.
Oh, I want.
So when you think about it, it just becomes a natural thing. So if it becomes the FedEx 12, I just named it the All-State 12. Right now, it sounds clunky, but eventually it'll just become normal. And it sounds like what they're leading to is the All-State Big 12.
Mm-hmm. It sounds, the All-State 12 does sound like a court case or a gang or, one of those news stories. The All-State 12 was caught today.
But the All-State Big 12...
You get used to it. I'm actually getting used to it just because we've talked about it so much.
Right. It doesn't even sound bad anymore. Initially, I felt opposite. But you're talking about 9 figures for the naming rights. Listen, this is the Andrew Tate Show. And if Allstate offered me 9 figures, this would be the Allstate Sports Show with Andrew Tate. That's exactly what it would be. This helps the Big 12. Ultimately, the Big 12 has found themselves squarely behind the SEC and the Big 10. They and in danger of becoming a second-class league, a filler league for the 2 big ones. Making these decisions for private equity, making these decisions for new naming rights, I think are very smart decisions that could not only help them draw even, but even maybe catapult them beyond them. Because as I said in the last segment, this extra revenue, these partnerships, they're going to not only generate cash and resources, but connections to other avenues to be successful. So I think it's a good thing. The thing I've always thought about, if you're going to go that far and you're going to be the All-State Big 12 conference, then why not? You got an East Division and West Division, I guess. Name the East Division, the Coke Division, and the Pepsi Division, the other one. I'm going all in. I'm all in on generating revenue because these schools need it. Most people don't think about it this way, but as I said in the last segment, there are very few athletic departments that are profitable. Mm-hmm. There are very few, and if they are profitable, they have a very thin margin. These are revenue streams that can literally help a university. These are revenue streams that make it so that other sports that don't make money, or the women's volleyball and the men's golf and the lacrosse team, by having a strong athletic department, it ensures that these sports are going to stick around. Where most people are saying it's going to cost them, I looked at it over the weekend. So many people talked about how private equity is going to cost all these women's sports and all these low non-revenue generating sports from being existing. But they're all, every single one of them that I read and looked at were all, I feel There wasn't a shred of evidence that shows that these private equity firms have come in and wholesale changed a sports organization. They've only helped them. They've only enhanced them. Matter of fact, I'm going to go as far as to say, if anything, you want to know a private equity company that wholesale changes sports, these television contracts. These television contracts have made it so that these schools need to raid other universities, other conferences to get other players. Why is Florida State wanting out of the ACC? Because they're not making enough money, and if they went to the Big Ten or the SEC, then they would be a part of their television contract. No one talks about that. Private equity is bad, but television money is good. When you step back and look at it, only one of them are wholesalingly changing sports. It's the television contract. It's the ESPNs of the world that are wholesaling changing that. You don't hear that because ESPN's going to give you their own take on things. But no one thinks about why did the Pac-12 fold? Pac-12 was one of their best years ever this past season. Why they folded? Because they couldn't get a television contract. Not because these schools wanted to leave. Not one school in the Pac-12 wanted to leave. Not one. And not even UCLA, who was losing massive amounts of money. None of them wanted to leave, but the UCLA and USC both went to the Big Ten because there was so much more money to be had. At most, you were going to get about $25 million to $30 million by being in the Pac-12, where you could get 70, 80, 90, $100 million for being in the Big Ten. So that's why they left.
I think we're running up against a little bit of nostalgia versus
Yes.
practicality. So it's always been done like this. We don't want things to change, but they're missing out on the potential practicality of all of these changes and what they can do to be beneficial. Because, people as a species, we don't like change.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole thing. I like it the way it used to be. That's what you always hear. Well, I liked it the way it used to be as well. And I remember, you go back and it's like the good old days. Well, the good old days are gone. You don't have a crank in front of your car. And now we got self-driving cars, electric vehicles, planes that can fly around the world. With change comes advancement. And sometimes giving up what was once something that was part of your life, you have to adjust. And this is one of those situations. I am now pro private equity, and for a conference that is literally fighting for its life, because they are. If they don't make these changes, there's going to be some schools that are, if the opportunity comes up for the SEC to steal some of these schools would leave in a heartbeat because they can't compete. Secondly, if they don't leave, they're in danger of becoming a farm system where their top players are all getting plucked by the Big Ten and the SEC and maybe even the ACC. These moves, private equity, name change, are moves that are helping the Big 12 survive, and I'm for it.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and take our third break of this episode. When we come back, switching gears to some of our oddities in the news segments. The first up is a crossing guard who was arrested for giving her middle school students vapes, potentially other things as well. So you are tuned in.
Okay, wait, let me. You said giving her. I thought that was like a disease for a second. Then I read it, I'm like, she gave him the vapes.
The vape.
I'm like,
vapors.
I'm like, well, how do you get the vapes?
Save it for the next thing.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're tuned into the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports, and we will be right back.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports. During the break, Tate was making me laugh, so that's why I'm giggling as we come back. We've been talking about sports, of course. First segment, we talked about last night's win, Boston Celtics over the Dallas Mavericks. And then the segments 2 and 3 were about the Big 12 and private equity. We are switching gears now and going into some of our funnier segments for this episode. Talking about not the vapors. We are not talking about the vapors.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw you off, but when you said you made it like it was like they got like a disease. I was like, what the heck is the vapes?
The vapes. Well, officials say 26-year-old Kiera Lee was charged in connection with providing vapes to students. Police are asking families with information to come forward, especially if their children have ever interacted with the crossing guard. Just to know they can't get it from someone who's supposed to be helping them get home is insane to me, Penwood Middle School parent Maya Bryant said. Bryant's 14-year-old daughter walks home from school, often using the same intersection Lee was stationed at. It's alarming, Bryant said. It's disturbing. According to the Delaware County District Attorney's Office, Lee provided vapes to students at or near the intersection of North McDade Boulevard and Summit Street, which is about 5 blocks from the school. The DA's office said that after a police investigation last month, a student witness told school officials they saw Lee providing students with vapes at least 3 separate times. One student who received the vapes also told the student witness that they would smoke marijuana with Lee frequently, officials said. The guardian of the student who received the vapes said Lee also provided their child with marijuana edibles. You shouldn't do such a thing, Darby resident Shay Johnson said. It's kind of disgraceful a little bit. I feel bad for these poor babies. According to officials, text messages between a student and Lee confirmed they had taken the edibles. You're a crossing guard. I trust that when my kid comes home from school, the crossing guard isn't giving them anything crazy, Johnson said. In a statement, Police Chief Joseph Gabe said, our dedicated team knows that protecting the kids in our community is absolutely central to our mission. While marijuana may not seem like a big deal to some folks in the community, I think we can all agree that crossing guards should not be providing narcotics, even if it's just marijuana to our kids. Parents said they believe more should be done to ensure those working around children are vetted properly. I feel like people should pay more attention to who they're hiring, especially when it comes to children, Johnson said. I don't care if you feel like it's too extreme to be going through stuff like this, but it's nothing no parent would ever want their child to be introduced to. As of Tuesday afternoon, Lee was in custody and awaiting arraignment, according to the district attorney's office. She is charged with possession of marijuana with intent to deliver and corruption of minors. Oh dear, Tate. I don't know, is this worse than the vapors? I think it's worse than the vapors.
Okay. Here's the thing about this one. First off, I'm looking at the pictures that you put up there.
I'll leave them up.
And I thought the crossing guard was one of the kids.
I think she's shorter than a lot of them.
She is a tiny, like, she's very tiny, so she looks like one of the kids, but then in the face she looks like she's about 45. And so it just kind of threw me off, and then it looked like her weave was kind of falling out, like she didn't get her ends taken care of properly.
Well, who looks good in the mugshot?
And then the mug shot. Oh, man. Woo. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, you can't be puff giving with the kids if you're a crossing guard. That is something you can't do. I know the world has changed, and looking at marijuana as not as bad of a substance as it once was looked at. But
These are middle school students.
you are a crossing guard, responsible for protecting and helping kids get to school, making sure they cross the street fine. You can't be over there smoking the chronic with them and giving them edibles. Now they can't even walk a straight line across the street. They're all, you know what I mean? You're putting these kids at risk. Second of all, you're corrupting kids. I don't know what kind of time she's facing, but that was sometimes making poor decisions in life. There should be major consequences for it. And this is one of those situations. When you are trusting, I remember as a kid, a lot of families, they would walk their kid to school and then they would get them to the crossing guard. That's when, once you get them to the crossing guard, they're safe. That's the way it was always looked at. You know, there'd be a couple crossing guards you have to get to, but once you got to the crossing guard, you've made it to the safe zone for your kids.
I grew up feral. I just walked to school. No parent, no crossing guard.
Yeah, so I lived in a little bigger town than you did, let's just say. So if you walk across town, they get you to the crossing guard, and then you let little Jimmy go, and he goes about his business. Crossing guard gets him the rest of the way to school. You can't have a crossing guard. Okay, I didn't got you to Becky, and she pulls out a joint like, want to hit this? You know,
What is the thought process? How do you even one day wake up and be like, you know what? I got some extra edibles. I wonder if the kids want them.
But she was talking about there was numerous kids, and they talked about smoking with her.
Yes.
Before, okay, you're going to morning class. You're trying to get to school. I don't understand pulling out a joint like, hey, how do you start that conversation with little Jimmy, how old are you in middle school? 12?
6th to 8th grade, depending on the system, maybe sometimes 9th. So let's say, 11 to 14, right?
Yeah.
Right in that window.
And how old is she again?
She's 26.
26. She looked like she's 46.
She didn't.
She
The side of a middle schooler and the face of.
Yeah, my girl had a hard life. Let's just say life wasn't always good to her. I don't think. Probably because of some of these dumb decisions that she'd made.
Maybe somebody started her on.
Yes,
In middle school.
it's one of those things where, you know, making these smart decisions. But let me give another side story. There are some people out there that look at marijuana in a different way. And I remember, this gave me a little flashback here. I remember being in 7th grade, and I went to a friend of mine's house. We were walking to school, and I think I told you this story. And I'm going to protect the name on this. The mom has recently passed, and I don't want to discourage or say anything bad about her. But I remember, I think maybe it was like 7th grade, and we went over there that morning, and we were going to walk to school afterwards. And the kids, I'm making up the name, so this is not the name, but it was like the mom, we're going out the door, and the mom yells down, "Tom, did you smoke up all my damn weed?" And my jaw dropped on the floor, and he's like, "No, I didn't do it." And she's yelling at him for smoking up all the damn weed. This is 7th grade.
Yeah.
There are some people out there that don't look at it that way. Now, fast forward, that same kid that I changed his name went on to sell drugs and go to jail and not have really a good life. Meaning, these decisions that you do to these little kids shape their lives forever. You want to be a positive role model, a positive influence on kids. Don't be the crazy lady that gave me jacked up gummy bears. Don't give me we're sharing. Yeah, the crossing guard, and I remember we had the crossing guard. We go in the back and smoke a couple of joints together. That just sounds wrong. It doesn't sound wrong. It is absolutely flat out wrong.
You and I were talking about, I don't even know, maybe a similar story recently, and I said, I grew up very sheltered. I didn't even have a clue where to find drugs, and that's because there wasn't a crossing guard in my town who was
out there. Yeah. Imagine this. I don't know where to find drugs. Why not just go to the crossing guard? She's giving it out.
She's got edibles. She's got vapes. She's got, whatever you want.
She give you a joint and some Sour Patch Kids. You can't have that. So no, I'm glad they caught her. I'm glad they busted her. She should not be allowed to do that job again. The question is, what kind of crime is that? That's corrupting a minor.
Well, they charged her with, corrupting. She was charged with possession of marijuana with intent to deliver and corruption of minors. Now,
was she selling it to him as well?
It says intent to deliver. It doesn't say anything about selling, providing. And this is Virginia, this is Delaware. So I have no idea what the laws in Delaware are with regards to marijuana.
I can tell you this.
No, I'd have to look it up.
In the books, and I bet you there's not a law said, hey, crossing guards can give out gummy bears and some endo.
Yeah.
There's no law, there's no place that's going to allow that.
And hopefully, as a crossing guard who was working with children every day, there was a background check and all those things that you have to have in order to be allowed to work around children. But if she'd never done anything before, been caught before, that wouldn't have shown up in a background check. But hopefully, if she had been caught before, they would have, I don't know.
Talking about dropping the dime on her. Those kids was like, yeah, we smoke weed with her.
Yeah.
Every Tuesdays and Thursdays, she always brings out the Mary Jane. On Fridays and Saturdays, it's the gummy sweets.
Which are really dangerous now. Now that edibles are like gummies, that's really not good because kids are like, and gummies. It's much easier to be like, hey kid, you want a gummy bear?
It's gotten out of hand too, because it is too tricky. You can't be. It used to be as a kid growing up, it was a joint, and I never did that, but it's a joint. To stay away from the joint, okay? But no one ever taught you to stay away from the gummy bears,
the brownies.
Tacos.
Yeah, they're making all kinds of stuff now.
I can't get a Taco Bell Grande and get the munchies at the same time.
Isn't that a catch-22 though? So you get high and then you get the munchies and then you keep eating the gummy bears and then you keep getting higher and then you keep eating that's dangerous.
Then at some point you ate so many tacos, brownies, and gummies that you just spontaneously combust.
Yeah, I don't know. The world is a weird place. Let me just say that.
But she's a weird looking, like, she's a tiny woman. Like, she's short. She's very tiny in stature. Like, it plays with your mind when you see her. And then she has the mug shot where it looks like she's Sideshow Bob the clown or something like that. You know what I mean? And it's a weird look on her.
She's so tiny that I almost wouldn't believe if I were the driver. She's wearing the vest, but I'm thinking, why'd they give that kid? Is it bring your kid to work day?
Yeah, I'm thinking like she's a student crossing guard. I would have never thought. Except for that Sideshow Bob makeup and hairdo that I would have ever thought. Yes.
No. I mean, it's not like she had time to go fix her makeup before her mugshot. They don't really give you that opportunity.
Yeah, that's a rough one.
All right, well, note to self. Don't get arrested. We're going to take our last break of this episode. When we come back, a video that went viral about a suspended license and also an update on that story. You are tuned in to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports, where thankfully Tate did not offer me anything during the break. No edibles, no vapes, but
No.
That was our subject of the last segment.
I was just gonna say, but she did have a variety. She had edibles. She had things you could smoke. She had vapes. And she had it all. The
Full
one-stop crossing guard.
Full service crossing guard. All right. So Tate, you actually sent me a TikTok a while back about this next story with a driver who did show up to his Zoom court hearing while driving, but it was for a suspended license. So we're going to talk about that story as well as an update. So the Michigan driver who went viral after appearing behind the wheel during a Zoom court hearing, despite being busted on a suspended license, has at long last gotten his learner's permit. Corey Harris, 44, took a, quote, step in the right direction to finally becoming a law-abiding citizen after passing his learner's theory test last week, his lawyer told People. Harris was filmed heading into a Michigan Secretary of State's office, taking the test, and then celebrating with a little dance outside afterward. A clip posted on Instagram shows. Harris, again, who's 44, was filmed, excuse me, that was a repeated paragraph. I apologize. One day he has absolutely nothing, and today he has his learner's permit, his lawyer, Dion Webster Cox, declared. One day does not make the rest of your life, but it can change in a day. Harris's case has taken several surprising twists since his notoriety exploded when he popped up on screen for his May 15th headline-making court hearing while driving his car. Harris's case is the saga of a man who appeared before a judge with a suspended license. He initially had been pulled over during a traffic stop in Pittsfield Township the previous October and had been given a citation for driving with a suspended license. And then the judge, who you can see in this slideshow, says, "Mr. Harris, are you driving?" The judge's name is Judge J. Cedric Simpson. He's Washtenaw County Judge. Casually confirming that he was, Harris responded, "I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually." The dumbfounded judge promptly revoked Harris's bond and ordered him to be locked up for 2 nights. Following his viral hearing and brief jail stint, it was reported that Harris's license, which had been suspended in 2010 for unpaid child support, was actually supposed to have been reinstated in 2022. A clerical error was initially blamed for the mix-up. But in yet another twist, the judge revealed during a follow-up hearing that, a follow-up hearing last week that Harris never actually had a driver's license in the first place. Based on what the court has looked at, he has never held a Michigan license ever, Simpson said, adding that his office had gone back through all of his records. And he has never had a license in the other 49 states and commonwealths that form up this great union. He has never had a license. It does go on from there.
I'll take it.
Let's just jump in there.
Okay.
I think the judge's face says it all, a lot of it.
First off, when I first saw this, and I was like, oh, hell no, this is crazy. And then they started talking about how first they were talking about his license was suspended. And then that it was supposed to have been reinstated, but it was a clerical error and all this stuff. And I'm like, my man getting a raw deal. If they messed up and didn't get him his license and all this stuff, then they should give him some leeway. And then I learned more. First off, dumb criminals. Dumb criminals can be creative, but creativity doesn't eliminate the dumbness. First off, if I have a court case about me driving without a license, the first thing I'm not going to do is show my butt up at the case while driving. That's like me being out on bond for bank robbery and I got to get my hearing for it. And I'm holding up Wells Fargo. Hold up, Judge. Give me the money. Put it in the bag. And you know what I mean? It's like, you cannot do these things. That's common sense. Number two, they talk about the fact that, like, we're supposed to celebrate this dude because he has his permit. You want to know what surprises me? That they let his butt get a permit. He should have went there and they should have been like, oh, get your butt out of here. Aren't you the dude that showed up on court, on video, while driving? No, you can't get your license. He should not be allowed to get his license because he's already been busted driving without a license. He should also not be allowed because he lied. They saying his license was suspended, and it was the only reason why he didn't have his license because of clerical error. But guess what? That is a court. They do their research. They go back. What do? When they research your story, you never had a driver's license in that state, nor had you ever had a driver's license. So you've been doing this for a long time. No, you should not be allowed to get your license. And lastly, he got 2 days in jail. I think that's incredibly light. The first day is for being dumb enough to go on court and say, yeah, I'm driving while showing up to court. That's day one. That's the first day in jail you need to cover. Then the penalties. There is a reason why we do these dumb criminals, because this guy is one of the king of the dumb criminals. And then the audacity to give this follow-up story and think we should celebrate him for he's getting his permit. And he's out front dancing. Am I happy for him? No, I don't think he should be. Matter of fact, I think it should be a lifetime ban. He should not be allowed to drive in any state in the union. Matter of fact, he can't even get a bike license if I'm the judge. You know, no. What do you say to some of the things I've said on this one?
Well, the judge's face makes absolute sense because he's like, "Sir, are you driving?" And the guy is so casual about it. And then there's sometimes then the
he going through the drive-through, ordering a couple of like I said, that Taco Bell Grande, the Crunch Wrap Supremes.
But then the driver's face in some of those stills from the Zoom, he looks shocked, like he's surprised that he's in trouble for driving to his suspended license hearing. He didn't drive there, but he was driving while.
Yeah, what's the problem? I'm pulling in.
No, let just parking at my doctor's office. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm glad. I don't know if I'm glad, but great that he got his learner's permit. But that's really putting the cart before the horse, right? Or closing the barn door after.
No, I'm not happy he got his learner's permit because he didn't learn his lessons when he got his first ticket.
Yeah,
He still was driving.
it also said that he's updated his state ID every year. So it's known that he does not have a license. He knew he didn't have a license because you either have an ID or you have a license. You don't have both.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying. I look at this and I'm like, how and like, what was the thought process? Okay, think about this. What was the thought process? Like, he's like, you know what? I got my court appointment, but I also have a doctor's appointment he had to go to as well.
Apparently, yeah.
So the normal guy, if you're going to be driving dirty, all right, you're driving dirty out in these streets. So what I'm going to do, if I'm driving dirty, okay, I'm going to get to my doctor's office and then I'm going to do the court thing. The fact
From
that
the passenger seat, just to make sure.
or at least be like, Your Honor, I'm just sitting in this car while doing this because I knew I had my appointment. My girlfriend is in there at the doctor's appointment. Make up, if you've already lied under oath, you've already lied and said your license suspended and anything else. So might as well just stretch the lie a little bit more and be like, listen, I'm just sitting in this seat because I'm waiting on somebody. I knew I had this, so I went there. And this, why do you have your seatbelt on? I didn't want the cop to come by and come over and check because I didn't have a seatbelt on. So just out of habit, I just put it on. Anything, but then like, yeah, dog, I'm driving. I'm about to go over here and pick up some honeys afterwards. What's going on? You know, it's like, come on, think
about it.
Think about that. He look like he got the cigarette hanging off his lip. And he's just over here. See, I'm picturing that Cat Williams. This is the whole thing with Cat Williams and Cedric Entertainer fighting is the skit where he's driving the car and things, and then they say Cedric Entertainer stole it. But I picture this dude doing the actual skit of him driving. It's foolish. I'm more irritated, or not. I'm not really irritated, but the fact that he is allowed to get a learner's permit, that he's allowed to actually get his license after doing something like this.
Shouldn't there be some more steps or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. And then they want you to celebrate that he's done this. Not for me.
I got my learner's permit at 15. I mean, can we retroactively celebrate that?
I don't even know. We're not going to talk about me and how long I was driving.
Well, no, yeah, see? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although I grew up in Montana, there was a lot of farm kids who drove way before they ever should have. Some of that was just in the field, you drive the truck while your dad's giving the animals hay. But I know people who were driving to school at 12.
That was me.
See, you're not supposed to admit that.
The statute of limitations is up, sister. I'm 54 now.
Don't put yourself in the dumb criminal category.
I was a dumb criminal. I was a kid driving illegally. Yes, I was a dumb criminal on that one. I don't break the law whatsoever, but
Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, use some common sense. Don't drive to your suspended license Zoom hearing, or he didn't drive to it, but he drove during it, which is even crazier.
And don't do a Zoom, going for your bank robbery charge and then rob a bank while you're doing it. That's the dumb things you just don't do.
He did look like he was hands free, so at least he was not like holding his cell phone at the same time.
Got a question for you.
Yeah.
My man, he's in the front seat. Who's to say he's not driving a Tesla? Is that illegal? That's the question. Yes, Your Honor, I am driving to my doctor's appointment. But Your Honor, this is a Tesla. And it's on auto drive. I'm not even touching the wheel, Your Honor. Is that illegal?
Well, he's still not supposed to be driving even. I mean, I don't know what the rules are because they're going to have to look into those sorts
Because
of things.
here's the thing.
I still don't think you can drive a self-driving car without a license, right? I don't know.
Well, yes.
Have they
Yes, you
figured that
can.
out yet?
Here's the reason why. If you're in San Francisco, you can get a self-driving Uber where you're the only one in the car and they're driving you across town.
Yeah.
So
It's a gray area.
if you have a suspended license or no license at all and you get an Uber and you don't touch the wheel, you just program in where you're going. Are you doing anything wrong? Because if they stop him for driving without a license, then every Uber that's on the street right now that's a self-driving car needs to be stopped. Also, let me go another step further. If you have been drinking and you punch it into your Uber, to your Tesla to drive you home, and a cop pulls you over, do you get charged with drunk driving? Because there's no difference than you get an Uber that's a self-driving car and you sit in the back and it drives you home. It's the same concept.
I'm just glad I am not a lawmaker who has to figure all these things out because
These are things you gotta think about. Think about that.
we got a lot of gray area that's going to need to be figured out as things progressively get more interesting in the world of.
Because I'm making
science.
sure I'm saying my man on all charges are dropped. If he's in an Uber and the Uber is driving itself, you can't have one or the other. Either the Uber is the driver or he's the driver. That's all I'm saying.
Different topic though. That guy was driving. You could actually see him with his hand on the wheel.
Yes, I know.
So anyway, thank you for tuning in to the Andrew Tate Show by GSMC Sports. Your support does mean a lot to us, so please make sure to like, follow, subscribe to the show, and leave us a positive review. It really does help. You can also follow the show on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more content and updates. Thank you again for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Uber.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to